In this recording, Dr. Allott and I talk with Ambrosia and Heather about how the Parents for Parents program in Spokane County, Washington came into existence.
We can't thank you enough for making the time to do this. I've wanted to get this story a billion times, and I was just like, I was saying to Ambrosia, like, I started to worry that if I didn't get it soon, like it, it would start to wash into history. And thank you so much. You guys were like among the first, is my impression.
So Ambrosia, that goes way back. Ambrosia is she could speak on the veteran parent, back when parent allies were referred to as veteran parents, and how that came about. And then I came on board shortly after. But yeah, so we've been since 2008. Is that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
2008, we got a bunch of stakeholders in the community and invited them to this idea. Both Jeremiah and I had after attending the first birth parent convening in Tacoma. We found out that other areas were supporting parents, and there was this parent-led movement happening, and we wanted it in Spokane. We really didn't know how to do it, so we put it out there. We were downtown at the library. We invited people. I want to say 30 stakeholders showed up. It was a full house. It was overwhelming. They had great ideas. And those are some of the same stakeholders that are sitting at the table at our Spokane Parent Advocacy Network meetings today. And still, some of them might not be current members, but they still contribute when we have things in the community that we do, or fundraisers, or chili feeds. And that was really kind of the beginning of this. Heather and I.
Was that 2008 or was that 2009?
Heather, it was December of 2007. But I can't be sure. It was 8 or 9.
Yeah, because my case closed in 2008. So I think my case was closed when this happened, and it was very shortly after it closed. And you guys were like, come on, Heather, help us with this, go talk about your involvement with CPS. And I was like, oh God, no, I don't ever want to think about that again. I'm done with that forever. I've worked on that and I've gotten rid of it, and I don't want to catch that again. Thanks, but no thanks, right? You guys were on fire about this, talking about all the horrible things that you did, and that you were like, and I was like, ugh, people will judge me. No. Yeah, so you guys were on fire and starting this stuff, and I just was very resistant when you invited me on board.
And so it's scary to get together and talk about the reality and the shame and the pain that comes from being involved in the child welfare system, and to put ourselves in a vulnerable spot with that. So many parents have that same reaction. I don't want to catch that.
Yeah, and you and Jeremiah were further along with your cases being closed. I think you were in a different mindset and further away from the pain of it and the struggle. And you have been successful and had moved on, and I was just really trying to figure out how to be a good parent and never get involved again, and bringing that to light and having the spotlight on you again, even if it was in a different way, was horrifying to me. I mean, I would have lived happily ever after in my mind at that time, just moving on, being a good mom, and never getting involved again, right? And never talking about it ever again.
Heather, I'm really curious what shifted for you. Because clearly then you got drawn in and involved.
Well, I didn't know who Jeremiah was. And Ambrosia was we had met in treatment in 2006 or 2007. I'm not sure because I went twice. 2006. Okay. So she She got it that time. I didn't. I had to like go back another time, like 30 days later, because they kicked me out because I was just so, reactive and traumatized. But we had met, we had a rapport, we connected, but we lost contact, but then we found each other again. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, Heather, there's this really cool thing happening where people, parents are talking about their CPS cases and to, people that work in the system, and we're going to change the system." And I was like, "Oh gosh, yeah, that sounds great. You have fun with that." I support you in doing that. And then I went back to my life, and it was a good life, and it just kept bugging me. It's like, how selfish of you to go through everything that you've gone through this many times to just, go on with your life and have your happy family when you see parents out there struggling. And the thing is that when you're struggling with something and you have something like that kind of wisdom and experience, people are drawn to you that are struggling, and they magnetize to you. So it's not that, I really could ever walk away and not talk about it again, because people would find me and they would tell me about their pain and their struggle. And I'd be like, man, then it just eat at me and like nag at me in the background. Like, you should do that thing that Ambrosia's talking about. You should join that committee. And I'm like, I don't have time to join that committee. I was going to school and working and raising little baby girls that I just got back. And, just, it was a lot. So I did join, and I was reluctant, and skeptical. And I was like, who are these people? Why would they, want to be here? And then they wanted me to do stuff too. It was like brand new, and they were having to, right? Remember all the work that, like, the bylaws and recruiting and figuring out what our mission was and our vision and our like logo and all this stuff. And I was just like, oh gosh. And every time I'd walk away feeling like crap about myself because I wasn't doing enough and I didn't know what to do. So I took on the secretary position. I was like, you know what? I'll take the minutes. I am doing something. I'm
Tangible.
contributing. So I showed up, I took the minutes, and I don't know, it just came like, yeah, all the while, Ambrosia, like, you're in school at this time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm in school. I'm also like co-parenting and raising kids with my ex-husband. We had a different parent ally that came on and had those really great organizational skills that helped us with the bylaws and thinking through, like, she had some kind of experience in that, and like she was able to take that and hit the ground running because all I did was show up and help. I was the co-facilitator and one of the co-founders, and brought my passion to the table. And then at some point, like when Heather and I got super close, was when we were trying to bring a class called Dependency 101 into the community here. We didn't have like the proper maybe court buy-in at the time. And so we found a community organization that would let us use a classroom, on a Saturday morning, and once a month would show up for, I don't know, a year and a half, trying to teach this class to parents. I think only a small handful, I could count on one hand, showed up to these classes in that time. But we would get together and hang out and strategize and talk and bond, and got really close because of that.
Yep.
Is this still all a volunteer position? This is before
volunteer.
the Department of the Office of Public Defense got involved, and
Office of Public Defense itself was very new back then, and we didn't even know what it was. Yeah. Nobody knew what it was or what they did. Yeah, so we had one of the stakeholders on the committee, and she actually she was kind of active. She showed up to a couple. She was very new in the position as an OPD social worker, and she, I think, she just didn't get very really active involved. She's still involved today and very instrumental to everything we're talking about, but. Yeah, but we did have some CASAs and show up, some guardian items. We had some speakers. We invited speakers. It was the class, the Dependency 101 was very close to how it is today. Still, it was the early model of it. And I just actually was going through my garage and came across some workbooks. Jeremiah Donier made these workbooks, and they were great. And we had, we had speakers, more speakers show up than parents for sure.
Yeah.
But we sat there and we visited, and we planned fundraisers for SPAN. We planned a yard sale and just different strategies, and we got really close. So when we look, and finally we just gave up and we brought it to the committee because there wasn't a lot of help, and no one had capacity. Everybody, was like us, working jobs, raising kids, going to school. And so we just were like, you know what, we really want this. And against our best, intentions and better judgment, we're going to let it go. Right. And they were all supportive of us. They were like, yeah, you've done your due diligence. You've put in the effort. And, we're lacking in recruitment. We're lacking in, meeting parents and inviting them, advertising. We don't have the backing and the buy-in that we need to get the word out, to get the class established. So we threw our hands up. I think this is 2011 or 2012.
Wow. Okay.
Now, in the background, Nancy Roberts Brown has been working Catalyst for Kids via Children's Home Society, which, Catalyst for Kids is no longer. She was working on legislation and different things through the Washington State PAC and other avenues, and was able to secure startup funds through DCYF.
Wow.
So our first funding, I believe, came from the department, and because of her work. And there were a few counties that they were offering the seed money to. One of them was King County, who had gotten up and hired Kimberly Mays, and it was running. And I think Snohomish County and Spokane County. And I could be wrong, but through SPAN, I actually got a job at PCAP because the PCAP director was on SPAN. And I had been working at a nursing home since I got clean, and I loved it. I'd played games for a living, right? I was activity professional. Yeah. And she wanted me to come, interview. So I went and interviewed and was working there for a while. And I really loved working there too. And Parents for Parents came along, and they wanted to train a few of us. And so they came through SPAN to identify parent allies. And Ambrosia had already been on the Washington State PAC at this time. So, our connections were really close, right, with some of these parents that were doing the work over there. So we identified 3 parents, right, to go do the training for Parents for Parents.
What year was this?
2012. It was December.
Really when Parent Allies sort of formed in Spokane.
In December of 2012 is when we were sent over to be trained. We did a day and a half of training. We observed a Dependency 101, and we observed approaching a parent at shelter care and other hearings, spiel. Cool. And we got to ask questions and stuff. Yeah, and I really thought that this was a job for Ambrosia. Okay. And there was a other guy in there, but he had jumped in really late. He really wanted the position, but he hadn't been doing the work very long. And so I really, like, in my heart knew that this position was like Ambrosia's, and I was just going over there to help her, like, digest everything and like be involved, and so I could be supportive in whatever way. And we had made a little pact before that it just didn't matter like how it came to Spokane, but no matter what, we were going to be supportive of whoever got the position and whoever, led it. And because we just really wanted this, but we had some ownership. I had some ownership. I was like, Ambrosia's going to get it. So, and I don't want to speak for you, Ambrosia.
Yeah. So at that same time that like Heather is, speaking life into my situation and believing that it's for me, I'm letting her know, like, I don't think I'm ready. I think it's for you. And feeling some feelings inside about like it really wanting it to be one of us, that, we had the history in it. Right. And, vulnerability to bring to the table in it. Yeah, that was a painful spot to be in. Like, yes, I wanted it, but I also didn't, like, I would have had no idea, I felt like, in how to even start that without Heather. And really what ended up happening was beautiful, because Heather got the position. I got right underneath her, beside her, and was like the lead parent ally, and we were referred to as the dynamic duo. And she had the brain to like organize things, and my brain wasn't there yet. It needed strengthened. And then, like, she came in and also supported me in this really cool way that now I know how to ask for what I need and stuff, where like I needed cheat sheets on how to do things. I needed to be able to reflect on that because I have a disability. And so the way I learn and process, like, I just need different tools to be successful. And she figured that out at some point and like started just writing it down, these procedures that I could do. And that really, really helped me as far as like meeting parents in the lobby and being vulnerable and loving on people. As long as I came in having some good self-care and taking care of myself, I was pretty good at that, but like following instructions to get something done, I needed that extra support, and she was amazing with that. And I want to back up slightly. One of the people that Heather is talking about, the director of PCAP at the time, a person working under her as one of the advocates, they found me at a local yearly event and seen me with my kids. And they were my PCAP worker back in 2000 when I was navigating my case. And she's like, "Hey, you look healthy. You look like you're doing well. Your family looks happy. We need you." And I was like, much like Heather's reaction, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I don't know. And she's like, "No, I need you to come talk to our director." And like, I went to some kind of interview and talked about some stuff. And then they're like, "You're going to go over to Tacoma and go to this convening." And I'm like, okay, I really had no idea what I was doing. But I just like followed through and showed up, and that was the seed planting to like where we are today in this work.
That was like the catalyst that got you to meet Denise, who was told about the birth parent convening as the PCAP program director, right? That makes sense. And they brought you in and interviewed you, and like, we're like, "We would like you to go to this." And so that was where you met Nancy Roberts Brown and learned about, okay. So that,
it was Denise, but it was my PCAP worker, Kat, that seen me at Unity in the Community at a booth, running PCAP booth. And she's like, "Hey."
Was it SPAN or PCAP?
It was PCAP.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we had SPAN booths. We used to have booths with SPAN back when you could,
Well,
like.
SPAN didn't exist yet.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So so we were always in this together because it started off volunteer together. And so when Parents for Parents came in and said, hey, we're looking for a host agency, our courthouse, there was this FJCIP coordinator, and she was something about this program got her heart. And I know she had been doing parenting plans with parents and things like that. So she had exposure to parents going through the system. I think that was really about it, though, when it comes to, proximity, parents in the system.
Mhm.
And she was like, I'll take this on. We can do this, right? And so she started heading up the stakeholders and the professionals in the system. And they were very skeptical. Also Commissioner Michelle Russa was another big cheerleader. Her and the FCIP coordinator, Janelle Grubb. So they both were very strong women leaders that weren't afraid to introduce something, so unconventional into the system. And they had a couple stakeholder meetings, and that was after our training when we came back, and had all decided to apply for the position and support whoever got it. Because the program was the main concern. Yeah, they had a couple of meetings, they did interviews. We heard the resistance from and the concerns, before we even applied. So we kind of knew what we were getting into. And in February 18th, we had the interviews of 2013. And then they offered me the position, and it was a part-time position, so I didn't want to leave my great full-time job with benefits at PCAP, so I just decided to do both of them. Because they offered me the position, and I was like, I really felt driven. My husband was very, very supportive and taking on the load, an extra load. So I got in there, and the main concern was meeting parents in the lobby, and I felt ready to do that because we had thought about this. We had envisioned this. I have imagined teaching a class for years before this had happened. So when we went over to the training, my mind was just going, and I could see it happening. And so I was in this mode of, just being driven to, meet parents in the lobby, collect data right away. And I came from PCAP, which is a data collection agency. And so I had the mind of, okay, we're just going to start this right off the bat and get as much data, and the baseline, everything they want, and get it in here so that we are, that we're good, and it's seamless. And so we started doing that. We got the first, we wanted, and everybody really wanted to call the Dependency 101 class HOPE, which was Jeremiah's idea. And it stands for Helping Other Parents Engage. Right. So we launched our Dependency 101 as the HOPE class. It's the same class, different name. And we had our first class on March 14th of 2013, I think. And every month after that, we had the class. I can't remember how many parents showed up to our first class. I think it was 4. But we have the data sheets. We could always go back and look, right? We have the size We have, Ambrosia, I like asked her to come on. I took like a week or two to figure everything out, but I knew that like we weren't doing the class with just me, right? Like, so I was like, okay, I got to figure this out so I can explain it to somebody else. And, she says like she, has a learning disability, and, she works best if like you write it down. But I kind of think like I was like so jumbled like this, like trying to explain something that you just, or trying to regurgitate something you just barely digested is very, very like, I'm sure she's like not giving herself enough credit. And I was probably just all over the place a lot, trying to like get this going really fast and like, okay, this is how we do it. This is, just watch me and then, okay, yeah. Go.
What did she say?
So yeah, we had Elise come over for our first class, didn't we?
And Jeremiah. So Elise and Jeremiah shared their story at our first class. And at our first class too, we had snacks. If I remember correctly, it was meat and cheese and like wheat thin crackers and I think some grapes along with some juice and water. So way before we knew anything about Protein for All, we were hitting some of that. We were making a good effort. Yeah.
Awesome. Like, this is so fun to hear, because like now I understand like when like a little seed, like I offered a little seed, like I could just see it take root so fast. and because you guys were already doing it. And I was just, giving you a little structure about it, maybe, or.
You were giving us the psychology behind it and the biology, right? And then the neurology, all of the scientific, like, education behind what we knew. We already knew that worked for like just innate reasons, right? Like things that you just can't explain, you just know it works.
Right.
Like Parents for Parents, like approaching parents in this empowering way, where you're seeing the best in them by you're reflecting the best, from you to them. And they're like, what? You're like me, but you look like them, right? But no. And how? And, you plant that seed of like, this is, this is not all in vain. This is for the greater good, not just of your family, but of other families, right?
And I love this story in that, like, you guys started asking, and Ambrosia started asking the question, and you jumped in, and like, you guys didn't have a ton of time sober, and and I bet you didn't have training in facilitation or grassroots startups, or like, you just started putting your feet on the path and moving forward. And it's so inspirational to be like, if you believe in something, just start moving towards it. Because and it's a great story for everybody to hear. Like, it's a great story, and I love how you talk about how, well, my brain wasn't quite organized enough, like, and that you like, it's changing, like you're learning skills along the way. Yeah. And it just, the story gives a lot of grace. Like, part of me is like, wow, like, people were really excited in 2014 on Protein for All, and really all you got is a website, but and it's a website Natasha did, but like, I know, like, I love hearing the story, because like, now I'm like, oh yeah, we've been laying down some real foundations and like priming it to happen. And you guys primed for a long time, and then we're like, it's not working. And they, somewhere along the way, something else was happening and came sweeping in and was like, no, we have funding for this. Like,
it was so cool. It was like, we did the work to prepare for it, and didn't know how it was ever going to come to pass. And we tried every option that we could think of with the resources we had, which was, just our time and Jeremiah's design skills, right? Graphic design skills and his English education, right? And we just put it together, and it worked, and something happened, and we didn't know what it was, and there was a lot of efforts that we thought were possibly unfruitful, but like just with patience and time, it manifested in a way that was better than what we could have asked for, right? And the missing, there's just certain missing links along these ideas when they come into practice. Like, when we meet parents in the lobby and we offered them, just to even the playing field by being human, right? And normalizing what they're going through when they're in this shame spiral and they're in their lizard brain, right? And then they're just a shell of a being, right? And in this really scary, complex system. And we would approach them and we would offer them connection. Really, that's really what we're offering them. And empathy, right? And compassion, which can be very, very lacking in the child welfare system, just because of the nature of it being a court system. So we offer them the connection, but that just didn't seem like, it was enough, but there was something missing. And we thought, okay, well, maybe if we bring them a planner, you know what I mean? Maybe if we come to them, we offer them some information, we ask them a little bit of information in return, right? And we normalize this, and we build rapport with them and offer them support and education and a tool, right? Tools, resources, right? So we're nurturing them. Maybe, okay, so maybe that'll be enough, right? Like, and for them to get inspired and move on. And we notice sometimes it works with some parents, but not with others. And, some parents are very reachable and others aren't. So when I was very early in my position there, and we were, trying to just sort of dial it in and figure out, right, and design this program. We were designing this program as well, what was happening, which it's still in design. But I met you, and I was very nervous, and I was trying to eat something before I went and presented. And it was in the presenters lounge, right? Children's Justice Conference in Seattle in 2015. And you were sitting there on your laptop, and I don't know why I talked to you, or if you talked, I think I talked to you, but you might have talked to me. And we struck up this conversation, and I knew you were a presenter because you were in the presenter room. So I was like, well, what are you presenting on, right? And you told me about it, and I was like, whatever workshop I was going to go to was done. I was like, no, I don't care what I'm signed up for. I'm going to this workshop. And I went, and there was Commissioner Russa, right? Oh, and I talked to my boss. I was like, because my boss was there, and I was like, oh, you got to go to this, workshop. It's about protein in the brain. It's about feeding, people. And this, the presenter that I just met's a neuroscientist, and she's super cool. Like, we have to go to this. And she's like, okay, let's go. So we go in, and then boom, you have like food at the door and handouts at the door. And I'm like, yes, this is what it's all about. We need to meet them right at the door. You know what I mean? With food and information, right? So they can actually absorb the information. It made perfect sense to me, but then you explained it in this scientific, like smarty pants way. I was just like, wow, yes, this is what I need to get the buy-in. Yeah. And I had Commissioner Russa and I had Janelle, who were like my just like fearless leaders that, also kept me kind of dampened down a little bit. Right? So, they bring me back to earth and go, well, remember where we are. We're in a very bureaucratic system, right? And remember who you're talking to. So yeah, we brought it back. And I've learned so much over the years from Commissioner Ressa and people that have mentored me in the system about how to get ideas planted, right, and get things moving in the system. And it's not easy, but it usually starts with a lot of preparation and a presentation, right? A meeting.
Yeah.
We mirrored your presentation at the meeting to the commissioners